difference between material and non-material culture? All right, well, I don't even think I need to write on the board for that one, right? Material culture are the items or the possessions, all right, that a culture, that a group of people find important to them, all right? So again, material is the items, like your home, all right, like your clothing. It's your possessions that help to define you as a culture or you as a society, all right? Non-material culture are the non-material items, the beliefs that help to define you as a culture. All right. So again, material items like food, like shelter, like clothing, are material items that help to define you as a people. Non-material items are beliefs, like your religious beliefs. All right. Your behaviors, your view of the world. That help to define you as well. Combined, those two things make up the culture of a particular group of people. All right, material and non-material. All right, so very straightforward, very simple. Those were vocab terms for you as well. Okay? Are there any questions there?
No.
None. All right, let's move on. What is popular culture? And be able to give characteristics of it. All right? Again, I believe these were a vocab term for you as well, right? But popular culture is just a term to describe what modern influences are significant or important to you as a society. All right, so popular, what are the current modern trends or behavioral patterns that are being accepted or embraced by a group of people? All right. It's pretty straightforward. Be able to give characteristics of popular culture. Okay, well, yeah.
Can I get a Chromebook?
Yes. Popular culture is...
Is it upon society?
Yes, upon society.
Alright.
It changes quickly. All right. Popular culture spreads quickly. All right. Popular culture is usually dynamic, which means, again, it changes a lot. All right. There's some terms. It's usually urban. It starts in urban areas, cities. All right. Popular culture is usually a word you may not be familiar with, secular. All right, which means non-religious. All right. Full culture is usually more religious. Popular is non-religious. All right. It is again ever changing, like I've already mentioned to you. All right. What's the word I want to use for this? It is not cohesive. It doesn't tie people together as much, alrighty, like folk culture does. Alright? I think that's good. I think those are characteristics that are good for us. How and where do popular culture traditions develop, and how do they generally diffuse? Okay. Well, popular culture traditions generally develop in developed areas, which oftentimes means urban areas. All right? They diffuse through hierarchical diffusion. All right? So it's done by a group of people in a position of prominence or power or wealth or authority, and then it trickles down to the rest of us. All right? How and where do popular culture traditions, how do they generally diffuse? I've gotten the diffusion already. Again, they usually, by the way, popular cultural traditions are oftentimes associated with younger people, all right? More youthful, I guess you can say, all right? And where do they, urban areas, all right? Developed countries or developed places is where they generally begin. Okay? Comments, thoughts, questions thus far? Anything need to be repeated there? No, okay. What is folk culture? And be able to give characteristics of it. All right, well, folk culture is really the opposite of popular, right? So it's traditional beliefs or behavior, right, that have been practiced usually for long periods of time, that are oftentimes designed to unite a group of people, right, in a particular place. All right, so behaviors, activities, that are designed, usually occur in rural areas that are designed to unite a people, right, with common beliefs or common behavior. All right? So it's kind of a set of common traits, right, that are older, that are more dated. All right? Characteristics of folk culture. Wow, there's a lot of them. It's usually old, right? It's considered to be cohesive in that it ties the community together. All right? It's slow to change. It is slow to spread or diffuse, right? It's usually rural, right? So it's usually located in non-urban areas, right? It is usually more conservative, all right? It is oftentimes religious as well, all right? Or there's a religious connection to it, okay? Are there questions?
Relocation.
Yes, thank you. It diffuses primarily through relocation diffusion, all right? When people who practice a folk culture want it to spread, I guess you could say, or when it does spread, it usually spreads because those people physically get up and move or leave, all right? It needs that assistance because it's usually not the dominant behavior in an area, and so for it to be practiced in an area or move, then it needs people to physically move with it. All right, that is not the case with popular, right? Where the innovation spread rapidly, oftentimes thanks to technology. Okay. Be able to provide examples of both folk and popular culture, mentefacts and artifacts, which isn't a term I've used in class. All right. Mentefacts, well, I'll be able to provide examples of both folk and pop culture. So, clothing is a good example, right? And you need to know the difference. I think that's pretty obvious for us, right? Yeah.
Clothing is folk culture? Or?
It can be both. It depends on what the clothing is. Blue jeans are pop, right? Traditional dresses, for instance, right, would be folk, right? So clothing is a good example of culture. All right. Housing is a really good example of culture. Food is a great example of culture, right? Music, dance, all right, are all really great examples of culture as well. Art is a wonderful example of culture, all right. I haven't gotten to that yet. The mentefact part, yeah. So those are all really, really strong examples that we can use for culture. All right. Now the challenge for you is, if I give you an example of something, you have to tell me whether it's folk. It is folk or popular. All right. But those examples will be pretty straightforward, pretty easy for you. They're not designed to confuse. All right. Mentefacts and artifacts. All right. This goes back to the whole material versus non-material culture. All of the physical objects that make up the culture of a particular group are known as artifacts. All right. So their possessions that define them as a people are called artifacts. All right. Again, their clothing, their food. All right. Those are artifacts of a particular culture. All right. All of the physical items, all right, that a culture possesses, all right, like food, like dress, all right, those are artifacts. Okay. All of the non-material beliefs that they have that make them up as a culture, that define them as a culture, like their beliefs, their religion, all right, their language, those are mentefacts. All right, yeah, they're your mental examples of culture. All right, they're your non-physical. All right. Yeah, I know, but I need to. All right. Wherever we're gonna get out at 4. All right. So again, mentefacts, the non-physical or non-material items that make up a culture. All right. Artifacts are the physical or material items that make up a culture. Okay? Any questions? No. All right. Wonderful. All right. Describe folk traditions related to music, to housing, to art, and to clothing. All right. Well, folk traditions. Related to music, folk music is usually based on the environment, right? It's usually based on the environment. Give me a second to get that down. It's usually based on day-to-day activities, like work, like growing crops. All right? Oftentimes it talks about the seasons, all right? For instance, growing seasons, all right? So again, day-to-day life or activities, seasonal topics, especially a lot of farming and agricultural topics, working with the land, or songs about the land itself, all right? And I think that kind of makes sense, yes?
Is religious music one?
It is. Religious music is an example of folk culture. I think that would probably be more like considered day-to-day sort of stuff, like worshiping or praying, practicing your religious beliefs or customs.
For the day?
All right. Folk housing, obviously, is created with natural resources from that environment, right? It is individually produced. What we mean by that is it's made by hand. So therefore, each folk home often is going to be a little unique in some way, all right? Because each individual makes their own, all right? Usually more simplistic. Simple, right? There to meet the basic needs, all right? Not extravagant, all right? Folk art, again, folk art a lot of the time is produced with local resources. It focuses on local topics, all right? So everyday life, religion, all right, are good examples of folk art. Give a moment there.
Local resources and what?
Local resources and everyday activities, especially religion, folk art has a lot. All right. Folk clothing. Folk clothing is usually designed, again, I hate to bang the same drum here, it's based on local resources that are available, right? So colors, for instance, or the material used is going to be based on what is local or available in that area.
Does religion play into like how we wear?
They absolutely, all right? It's going to be based a lot of times on conservative ideas, I guess you could say. So folk clothing is generally more conservative, all right? A lot of times folk clothing is designed, again, for purpose or activity. There's a reason why they wear that, that folk clothing, all right? Again, very kind of general when we're talking about the culture stuff, all right? Questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, what are the three main types of American folk housing according to Fred Kniffen? All right, well, hey, remember we talked about this today in class, right? And so I left it up on the board for us, right? The New England style, right? And remember there are 4 categories of those, right? The most famous is salt box, right? Cape Cod. And I gave you these notes today. There's a really cool little illustration on one of them that shows you the 4 types. The double chimney.
Is that for New England?
Yeah, these are all the New England types here. All right. And then the front, wing, and gable. Right. Trap. Well, that's not trap house. Oh, was it? It was a trap house. Yes, it was. Yes. All right. So those are our New England styles. Then in the Mid-Atlantic, remember it's the eye house. Right? Looks like an eye from overhead. Double chimneys on both sides. Right? And then if you remember, the Chesapeake is actually called a tidewater home, right? Because they're oftentimes located on the coast, so tidal waters, right, were a threat to them. And so those were the ones, remember, that would be raised up, right? Those were the ones that would have oftentimes the large porch area, the shaded porch, to provide cool assistance during those warm, hot, humid months. Remember, the further north you go, the colder it is, right? I think that's a no-brainer. And so therefore, the houses reflected the fact that they needed to protect themselves in those cold months more often, right? That's why the chimneys are in the middle, for instance, all right? As we get lower, it's hotter and humid, and the winters are less severe. And so these folks are really protecting themselves from floods, for instance, right? And trying to take advantage of cool temperatures during those hot, humid months where they can cool off on the porch, all right, in the shade. All right? Remember, generally speaking, New England homes are generally made out of wood, all right? Mid-Atlantic homes are less likely to be made out of wood, usually made out of brick, all right? Chesapeake Tidewater are also usually made from wood because it's easier oftentimes to raise those up if they are made and constructed from wood as opposed to other materials. Alrighty? Anyways, you also need to remember how they diffuse. Remember, they diffuse kind of in a western direction, all of them do. The tidewater technically follows the coastline, alrighty? And the mid-Atlantic flows into the middle portions of the country. New England, remember, flows to the northern latitudes. All right? You need to know the path in which they diffuse, all right, which they spread. So New England spreads basically in a straight line to the west, all right? Mid-Atlantic spreads into the middle portions of the country, all right? And then the Chesapeake Tidewater, it really follows the coastline as it spreads. Yeah, it really just follows that coast, all right?
Where does Mid-Atlantic go?
Basically, the entire middle section of the country is mid-Atlantic housing. Alrighty?
The Midwest.
Yeah, the Midwest. It stretches a little bit into the interior South as well, like Tennessee and places like that, that are not touching the coastline. Alright? Now, please remember, those are folk homes, right? And so we're not going to see a lot of those, after the 1800s, right? We're going to start to see those modern styles and stuff. Questions? Okay, very good. I will tell you there are some pictures of homes on the exam. Alrighty, and I'll say which type is this. Alright? Yet again, these are not designed to try to confuse the heck out of you or anything. I try to make them as clear as I possibly can. Okay? Thoughts, comments, questions? Alright. Hey, you are here. Alright, you made it. Alright, very good. Hey, next question. What are the two major categories of modern housing in the United States, and when did they appear? Again, covered today in class. So beginning in the 1900s, we move away from folk housing, right? And we embrace modern housing styles instead. Now again, what were the two categories of modern housing? Neo-eclectic. And what was the one that came before it? Modern. There you go. Just simply modern. All right. So we've got modern homes from about 1945 till about 1970, and of course the most famous of those is the ranch, right? The ranch house, which we have a ton of out here. They were very popular in Southern California. All right. Easy to mass produce. That's why. All right. And then after 1970, we get the neo-eclectic, which is a very interesting word. And that's 1970, really all the way up until today. And by the way, Valerie, that's where you were thinking of neo-colonial. All right, because neo-colonial is one of the types of neo-eclectic homes. All right. Now for the exam, all you need to know is their two general categories. You don't need to know the specific individual modern homes. All right. You do need to kind of know, okay, modern comes before neo-eclectic, and 1970 is the cutoff year, right? And you do, if there is one modern house you need to be aware of, it's the ranch house. Because folks, since the World War II, the ranch house is really associated with the United States. If you ask people from other countries, for instance, they're just, what's the typical American house? They'll often say the ranch house. Then again, the rest of the world oftentimes thinks we're kind of like cowboyish, kind of like westernish, all right? Whether we are or not, okay? Anyways, those are the answers for what are the two major categories of modern housing, and when did they appear? I need to give you these notes, alrighty? Okay. What is a taboo? And provide some examples of well-known taboos around the world related to pork, beef, etc. Okay, who can tell us what a taboo is?
Isn't it something like restricted
Whoa.
in a society?
What's that?
Something restricted in a society?
So it's a particular behavior, right, that is restricted within a group of people. And normally taboos are almost always folk, right? Yes, absolutely. So it's some sort of behavior that is restricted or banned in a particular society around the world, right? This is designed, guys, taboos. I'll give you a second to get that down first.
You're talking so fast.
Majewski, I know you want to get out of by 4, but
We're out by 4. Yeah, so regardless.
Particular behavior that is restricted or banned within what?
a particular society.
Within a particular society.
Society.
Alrighty, this was also one of your vocabs. Alrighty, so you already have the cards for this.
I know the gentleman's club. That's how I remember. Off the 91 rule. Taboo and the gentleman's club. Yes.
What did I say?
Yeah, you told me you saw it.
I remember there's
Yeah,
one
we said
because
we
of
were
the
taking
Taboo Gentleman's Club
And that's what our conversation was
by
about.
91
I
freeway.
haven't been near a gentleman's club in a long time.
Look at that.
I used to date a gal.
Okay. You date everyone.
Dude,
You're little.
back in the day. This was a long time. She's a lovely woman.
I put you in the juice. So you are the nicest smile in the yearbook.
Huh?
We voted for you.
I vote for you. Oh, for me.
Majewski, I put you for the passion when I am Majewski.
All right. Hopefully we gave Alyssa enough time to get that answer down. All right. So, what are some examples of famous taboos? Okay, pork first. Pork is a taboo in which particular religious society? Muslim society. All right, not India. Muslim society.
India is.
Yeah, India's beef.
Yeah,
All
because I was gonna
righty.
say that.
So again, and it's not. Okay, Muslims tend. Those are the most famous religious taboos. All right, Muslims have taboos against eating pork. All right, we'll get into that in the religion unit. All right.
Not considered sanitary.
Yes, it has to do with what they consider to be sanitary. Although we do think there were actually environmental reasons for it, and over time they developed a religious justification for it as well. All right. So hey. Where is Muslim society located for the most part?
North Africa and the Middle East.
Right, North Africa and the Middle East. So those are the areas where pork is generally forbidden or frowned upon. All right. Now, Hindu society, which is a large amount of India, but not all of India. All right. The northern portions especially have taboos against eating beef. Again, religious reasons for this. All right. They believe they're a polytheistic society. They have many gods. And they believe that their gods would sometimes come down on earth and take the shape of natural forms. One of them was a cow. So a cow is kind of a sacred animal to them. What's that?
Elephants in Thailand.
Yeah, like elephants in Thailand. All right. So they're viewed as sacred. And so therefore it's forbidden in many parts of India to kill a cow. And it's considered a taboo to eat beef, right? Because then that's sacrilege.
Is it like a crime?
It's a crime in some parts. Yeah, in fact, guys, they have like what are called cow wranglers, whose job it is to round up the cows that are just everywhere on the streets and everything like that. And you gotta recognize. You have to recognize. Hold on. You have to recognize that there's a lot of folks in India that are starving, and there's all these cows around rolling around that they can conceivably eat, but they're forbidden from doing so. All right. Hey, one last religious taboo. All right. Some religions frown upon the use of alcohol. All right, or smoking cigarettes. We're talking about evangelical Christians, right? Like born again Christians, especially in the South. Baptists, Mormons are a great example. Alrighty, as well. No drinking, no smoking. All right. Jehovah's Witnesses as well, right? Sex before marriage, I think, is probably a cultural taboo. I don't know if we can give it to just one religion. It's more of just a societal taboo. All right. Sex before marriage, premarital sex.
I've never heard that. But like, I mean, I've heard that, but like, only religion.
I feel like it's more religious.
So wouldn't it be a taboo?
Yeah, Majewski.
But no,
Do
hey,
they restrict us?
here's the thing, is that a taboo is generally practiced by one faith or one religion, or one group. I don't think you could probably say there's one culture that abstains from premarital sex. It's more than that. You see what I'm saying?
Wait, Muslims?
I can't really hear.
Hey, shh, we need to stop the discussions. All right, what was that?
So like, basically, it wouldn't be like, because in some religions it is a sin. So
Yeah.
that'd be a taboo.
It could be. I think it's kind of a too general or too vague of a statement, maybe. I think there's a lot of societal pressure not to do that. That has nothing to do with religion as well. I think it's just in this country, for instance, sometimes frowned upon because we don't want to see, like, young people having children themselves because it's viewed as a burden or you're not prepared for it. That's not really a religious thing at all. You see what I'm saying? So, anyways. Vivian, you had a question. Yeah. There's going to be places in India where you can find beef and you can eat beef, but there's also going to be large sections of the country where that's not going to be the case. So it really is probably going to depend on where you're located. All right? Remember, these are the Hindus who believe in this particular idea, and those are the northern portions of the country. The east and the south, you'll still find cows and beef for consumption as well. All right? So again, as with most things, it depends on the region that you are located. All right? Comments, thoughts? Okay, let's move on. Why is pop culture oftentimes considered a threat to folk culture?
Because it like influences them.
Yeah, right, because it's dominant, right? Because of globalization, because of technology. All right, hold on. Globalization and technology. Smart. Globalization and technology. All right. I'm just waiting for Pyro to put the letter in his pencil.
Thank you, Mr. Wow, you're so nice. First time.